Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone who's come to honor all those who gave their lives so that we can enjoy our freedom that our country blesses us with each day. Memorial Day is actually 30 May, but for the current day convenience, in other words, a 3-day weekend, they've moved it to the last Monday in May. And Lord knows where it's going to be in a few more years.
There you go.
Hello.
Yeah,
okay. Several years ago, Commander Von Hinton, U.S. Navy retired, asked me if our detachment of the Marine Corps League would assume the responsibilities of coordinating the Memorial Day service each year. Von had been involved in this for years and thousands of other things around the community, and I'm sure everyone sitting here this morning remembers Von. God bless you, Von. I told him we would be honored and do our best. Now you know how the Marines received the assignment, and we are humbled to be recognizing the 56 men in Pickens County represented on the crosses over on the hill facing the McDonald's and out on Highway 515. Now I'd like to ask the Reverend Gerald Faulkner to say our prayer.
Father God, we thank you that we've been granted the privilege to live in a great nation that has warriors who have helped pay for our freedom. And this morning, as we honor them and as we remember those who have fallen in the purchasing of our freedom, we thank you that you've granted us the privilege to be a part of this great country. We pray that you bless this service and our feeble attempt to honor the great men and women who have served this country. Amen.
Thank you, Gerald. If everyone would stand and face the flagpole, we're going to have Scott and Eaton sing the national anthem. You remove your covers and place them over your heart.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, Scott. Now I'd like to introduce the Commissioner for Pickens County, Mr. Robert Jones.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to see such a crowd out here this morning. We are blessed to the fact that we are here to remember the men and women that have fallen for our freedoms. But also, I'd like for us to remember the ones that are still serving as we go home today. The few graduations I've been to this spring was really heartwarming to the fact that we have a lot of young men and women that are graduating high school that are going directly into the service. They do recognize them in the graduation services. And when you go to these and they have 1,000 people in the audience and everyone stands to salute these young men and women that want to dedicate their lives to our freedom, it is very heartwarming as we go forward to know what we have went through in the last 40 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank y'all for your service. I hope and pray that this country lives up to what we need to live up to for you men and women. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. If you'll open your programs, Scott's going to lead us in the singing of America the Beautiful. First, on the left-hand side.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for patriot dreams that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Thank you very much, Scott. You sounded pretty good this morning. Next, I would like to introduce our guest speaker. He's a Lieutenant Colonel Gerald D. Hodge, Jr., U.S. Army retired. He's a 28-year Army veteran and has been the Executive Director of the Tennessee Overhill Heritage Association in Etowah, Tennessee since November of 2013. I apologize, Colonel, for making it sound like...
Believe it or not, it gets confused more often than not.
Lieutenant Colonel Hodge joined the Army after graduating from Sale Creek High School in 1984. He was enlisted infantryman for 4 years with assignments in the Republic of Korea and Fort Riley, Kansas. While deployed in Korea, he participated in 28 combat patrols in the demilitarized zone. That's that little zone between the North and the South that we weren't lucky enough back during the Civil War to have. Colonel Hodge enrolled and graduated from the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga as a distinguished military graduate from the ROTC program in 1992 and was commissioned an officer. Colonel Hodge had numerous assignments as an officer to include Germany, 1992 to 95, Fort Riley, Kansas, 1996 to 98, and with regular Army liaison assisting the Army National Guard in Tennessee and Georgia from 98 to 2004. In 2004, he joined the Army strategist at Army Forces Command, Fort McPherson, Georgia, from where he deployed to Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom and also to Afghanistan during Enduring Freedom. His last assignment was with the U.S. Joint Forces Command at Norfolk, Virginia, from 2007 to 11, where he once again deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. During all these deployments, he was still found time to raise 3 children. Robert, the youngest, who was just graduated from East Tennessee State University and was commissioned as second lieutenant in the Army. And that's the reason the Colonel's chest sticks out a lot larger than most of us. May we have a big round of applause for Lieutenant Colonel Gerald.
That's okay, you can take it.
Being a former infantryman, got my plastic for wet weather conditions. Thank you for that kind introduction. One correction on that: I have not gone to Afghanistan. I was in Iraq, but not Afghanistan. One of the things I did at Forces Command when I was down there, I was that guy who was responsible for picking recommending to the Army leadership and the national leadership, what brigades, division headquarters, and corps headquarters went to Iraq and Afghanistan. That was one of my missions, and also the security forces stuff. And I was a major back then. I'm gonna thank you, Commissioner Frank, for asking me to come out. I appreciate y'all's your time, and it's an honor to be here to speak before you. I'm going to be talking about a couple of things that have been pressing on me recently with national events and some of the things that's been going on internally to the nation. We are at a time in our history where folks don't appreciate the military, or they appreciate our history in particular. Remember, we're here to memorialize our fellow veterans who died during conflict. A lot of people think them to be murderers still. Some of those in academia today feel that way. They pass it on to their students. Wasn't so much so when I was a college student, but it has seemed to have perpetuated in the past 25 years. First, let me tell you about the person who I remember my grandmother told me about in my family that was killed in action. My Uncle Eddie, my great Uncle Eddie, died on May 5th, 1945. He died. If you've seen the Mel Gibson movie about Hacksaw Ridge, my Uncle Eddie was killed in that battle. He was in the same battalion as Desmond Doss was. He was had crawled up to the top of the escarpment, and the Japanese had the escarpment edge zeroed in with artillery, and he was decapitated by an artillery round when it came in, and the shrapnel got him. So, and he was repatriated. His remains were repatriated several years. I think it's like 1949 when they brought back the remains of all the soldiers from Japan and reinterred them. His remains are at the National Cemetery of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So, to me, Memorial Day is not a time of celebration. You hear a lot of people, happy Memorial Day. I don't feel that way. It's a quiet time to me. It's always been a quiet time to me. I kind of go crawl into my shell during Memorial Day, and I remember those who've gone before. I remember them. I do have a cookout with my immediate family, but that's about it. I don't particularly like or appreciate car companies having Memorial Day car sales and that kind of stuff. It's a time of self-examination for me. I'd like to do a quick flashback and talk about some history. And now, being in the South, we all have an appreciation of the Bible. A lot of people don't realize it took a lot of time to put the Bible together. And to me, the Bible is a historic document. It's written over several thousand years. It wasn't put together until well past the time Christ left this earth. But the Bible, much like the memory of everything else, tells a story about the good, the bad, and the ugly in humanity. If you look at the life of King David, if you look at Paul or Peter, they weren't always good people. They did, look at Peter. Peter was kind of a screw up, but Jesus said, "I'm following you. I'm going to build my church." Paul killed when he Saul, he killed Christians, but God used them later in their life to do good. And we look at the Bible and we try to emulate our lives after them. King David sent one of his officers out so he can have a relationship with the man's wife. Especially GIs, that's not cool. So, but still, God used David for his glory later on. Now, the reason why, while we're talking about the Bible during Memorial Day, well, the reason why is it's memory. We go back, we memorialize people from the past, and we memorialize our soldiers. Today, there's a movement in the country that they want to take down statues, rename roads, destroy statues, and again, I'm not cool with that. The Romans called it Damnatio Memoriae, which means damnation to memory. The Roman Senate, when they decided they didn't like somebody, a general or a former emperor, they would vote to damn somebody's memory. So what they would go out and do is they would go out and remove the statues, cut the statues' heads off, or completely remove it. They chip away at any kind of mosaics or anything that depicted that person. They did that a number of times. Nero being one of them. Nero wasn't a good guy, but he still, they did him and several generals through their history also. Who also did this was the Egyptians. They would go out to the obelisk, and they would chip away that person or the story to be told about them. And the Persians also did it. In most recent memory, the Soviets have done it, the Communist Chinese have done it, the Taliban have done it, and ISIS has done it. Here in America, we have a certain element that is going around and not only targeting Confederate monuments, but also anything that does not align with their political beliefs. They are being empowered by politicians and super financially empowered individuals that are failing to enforce the laws, the U.S. Constitution, and their oaths of office. Now, there is hope on the backside of this. And the hope is being that young men or women, like the commissioner was saying, are still stepping up to the plate and going out and doing selfless service. Just like our veterans from the past, from the very beginning of even in colonial days, when people joined their local militias to protect their homes. We continue to do this throughout the nation, fortunately. And sometimes, up until 1976, we had conscription, we had a draft. And there's been a lot of folks, and my Uncle Eddie was one of them. He didn't join, but he was drafted when they were getting ready to go to, when they were mobilizing for World War II. But they went out when their counties, their cities, counties, or their country called, they went out and they served, and they sacrificed themselves doing their duty. I am all about the First Amendment, but the First Amendment, if you read it, it says those who peaceably assemble, going out, destroying property, removing it, breaking things, burning things, getting in somebody's face and shouting is not peaceable, and I find it intolerant. And I hope you find it intolerable too, and let your elected officials know about it. Oh, I'll just back up for 1 second. I'm retired, and I'm the executive director of Tennessee Overhill Heritage Association. What I say is not the positions of the Department of Defense or who I'm employed by right now. I would ask you to please keep my son and his new wife in your prayers. He is right now leaving my ex-wife's house in Southwest Virginia, and he is leaving to report to Fort Lee, Virginia today to to be an ordnance officer in the United States Army. And I found out last week that I'm going to be a grandpa. So that's even adds a little bit more importance onto it. But please keep them in your prayers. Keep us in your prayers. Keep our nation in your prayers. Prayer and fasting, that's the only way we're going to, we have to show our Christian love. Earlier in my life, violence and hate would be very, very rapidly put upon somebody when they made me unhappy in those kind of situations. But as you get older, I tell people like this. When the veterans of the Civil War, when the war was declared over with and they went back home, and it wasn't peaceable. In the hills of North Georgia, East Tennessee, Western North Carolina, actually throughout the South, we still fought for many years afterwards. You just don't hear about it. And the big migration out west was because people were wanting to get out of the hills, go to Texas, go to the Indian Territory, what became known as Oklahoma. They wanted to get away and start life anew. The economy was bad here, and they wanted to change. But in this, if you're, 1880s, 1890s, those veterans were about my age. That's 30 years after the war. A lot of you guys that served during the time of Vietnam, that's when they started getting together and burying the hatchet, if you will. Building these statues in town squares to remember those guys that served, went on before them. It's called the Age of Reconciliation. Right now, this group I've referred to, these groups of people, they're going back and trying to extinguish history. We can't do that, because if we don't remember I told you about David, Paul, and Peter, all these other folks in our history. If we start doing that kind of thing, we will repeat history again. We will forget the kindness, the love, the reconciliation that not only those guys did, but also, remember I talked about the Bible. We go back to the Bible. That people wanted to destroy the Bible. Well, in the Bible, we have reconciliation with God. We've done some horrible stuff in our own lives. We have not, we've fallen out of the grace of God, but we go back to Him and we ask for forgiveness, and we forgive ourselves, and that's hard to do, believe me. But we got to pony up, and we got to show love to one another. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Colonel Hodge. We appreciate that. Like you were saying, there's a lot of things going on in this country that a lot of us don't agree with, and if we don't do something about it, it's going to get worse. So I would hope you would take his advice and contact your elected officials. And we don't have that problem that much in this area that I know of, but every time I go to Atlanta, they done changed the road for somebody that did good things and put another person's name in there that they thought did better things. I don't go to Atlanta anymore. Okay, we're going to present the wreaths now. The first wreath that we're going to present is for the American Legion. It'll be presented by White Legion. The second wreath we're going to present is for the DAV, here in Pickens County, and it will be presented by Clarence Poore. The next wreath we're going to present is for the Poore Chaplain National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution. That'll be presented by Mary Turner. Believe it or not, we still have an enormous amount of prisoners of war that have not returned home. The POW flag will be presented by Gary Bledsoe. And last but certainly not least, the North Georgia Mountain Detachment 1280 of the Marine Corps League. That will be presented by Randy Smith. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for that presentation. Now, in order to honor those from Pickens County killed in action, their names are on the monument at the front of the courthouse. Memorial Day 2018. A time to remember those brave men and women who gave the supreme sacrifice of our country for your freedom. Listen now to the reading of the names of these veterans, and remember that freedom is not free. World War I, Charles M. Barrett, John W. Barrett, Grover Cleveland Brooks, Homer Carver, William Champion, Charlie Dishroom, Frank Elrod, Howard Lee Mentor, Claude W. Moss, William D. McBee, Charles Penley, Arthur Rowland, Cleese B. Russell, Joe Tatum, Joseph A. Teague. World War II, Donis Hank Boyd,
Linton Bruce, Hilburn Bunch, Newman Columbus Bunch, David Winston Champion, Charles L. Champion, George M. Dodd, Robert H. Dorsey, Charles C. Evans, Sam P. Fitz, Wilford A. Fitzsimmons, James Hugh Fowler, Willie Frank Free, McFarland Yaton, Paul Jr. Yaton, George W. Hayes, Mose Washington Hendricks, Edsel L. Halbert, Herbert C. Halbert, James W. Hulsey, Joseph Lewis Jarrett, Clifford Waldo Owenby, James Hugh Sam Filial, Robert L. Pittman, George Lewis Pruitt, C. F. Reeves, Theodore Benjamin Reese, Lee H. Shipman, Joe F. Stanfield, Benny L. Stevens, Henry Stevens, Dallas Glenn Thacker, John William Wehunt, Reynolds James Young, Korean War, Curtis E. Bunch, Jack Anderson Burrell, Vietnam War, Charles G. Bowling, Billy Gwynn Langley, Jack L. Spillman, Bobby R. Young, Iraqi Freedom, David Samuel Collins.
There we go. Pause for a moment. Just reflect on the names that you just called. There's now going to be a 21-gun salute.
My God, it's good. Look hard. Right, face. Right, fire. Ready? Aim. Fire. Fire. Cover. Left face.
thank the DOD, Honor Guard, and Don Ware, providing us with that experience and work. That concludes our service. I hope everyone will remember that this is not a celebration, but this is a time to remember those who have allowed us to live the life of freedom that we do today. God bless you all.